What would you do if your own child inherited a fortune and then threw you out of your own home? This is not just about money. It's a story of betrayal, heartbreak, and a lesson that money can never buy the value of family. Stay with me, because the ending will shock you. When you dedicate your entire life to your child, the last thing you expect is betrayal. But sometimes, the people you love the most can break your heart in ways you never thought possible. The world never gave me much. I wasn't born into wealth. I didn't have powerful connections or golden opportunities. What I did have, however, was a daughter. And from the moment she was placed in my arms, red-faced and crying, I knew my life's purpose had shifted forever. Her name was Emily. She had eyes the color of chestnuts and a laugh so infectious that even my darkest days seemed a little brighter. I remember whispering to her as I held her for the first time, "I don't have much, sweetheart, but whatever I have, it's yours, always." Life, however, had its cruel sense of humor. When Emily was 3, her mother left. She said the struggle was too much. The bills, the late rent, the endless worry about money. She wanted freedom, not responsibility. One night, she kissed Emily's forehead, left a note on the kitchen counter, and walked out. I remember finding that note, my hands trembling, my knees weak. It read, "I can't do this anymore. She deserves better than both of us struggling. Goodbye." For a moment, I thought my life was ending. But then I looked at Emily, her tiny hands clutching her stuffed bear, her sleepy eyes searching for her mother, and I realized I had no choice. I had to become both father and mother, and so I did. The struggle I worked 2 jobs, warehouse loader by day, dishwasher by night. My body ached constantly. My back screamed with every heavy box I lifted. My fingers cracked and bled from scrubbing pans in the kitchen sink. I came home reeking of sweat and grease, too tired to even eat most nights. But I always made sure Emily ate. We had a ritual. I'd drop her off at daycare before rushing to work. When I picked her up in the evenings, she would run into my arms, yelling, "Daddy!" like I was a superhero returning from battle. That one word, Daddy, erased every pain in my body. Dinner was usually simple: pasta, rice with vegetables, sometimes just toast with peanut butter. But we made it fun. We pretended we were in fancy restaurants, with Emily giggling as she called me Chef Daddy. On Fridays, no matter how broke I was, we had pancakes. It became our sacred tradition. I'd flip them in our tiny kitchen, sometimes burning them, but she didn't care. She'd clap her little hands and shout, "Best pancakes ever!" And for those moments, I felt like the richest man alive. Small sacrifices, big love. Raising a child alone meant sacrifice after sacrifice. I wore the same worn-out boots for years, gluing the soles back when they split, just so I could buy Emily her school shoes. I patched my old jacket with duct tape while she wore warm coats in the winter. One Christmas, Emily asked Santa for a dollhouse she had seen in a store window. I knew I couldn't afford it, but I couldn't bear to see disappointment in her eyes, so I worked overtime at the diner, skipped meals, and finally scraped together enough. On Christmas morning, when she tore the wrapping paper and screamed with joy, hugging me so tight, I knew every missed meal was worth it. Neighbors whispered about us. They pitied me. The man with nothing. But they didn't see what I saw. Emily excelling in school. Emily's laughter echoing through our small home. Emily's hugs every night before bed. To them, I was poor. To me, I was wealthy beyond measure. Memories that kept us alive. We didn't have much, but we had memories. There was the time we took a broken-down bus to the beach. I had saved for weeks just to afford the trip. The sand was hot, the water freezing, but Emily built castles and laughed until her belly hurt. That night, we slept in a cheap motel, sharing a sandwich and watching cartoons on a fuzzy TV. She said, "This is the best day ever, Daddy." And I believed her. Or the rainy day when the power went out. Instead of sulking, we lit candles and told ghost stories. Emily sat under a blanket, her eyes wide with both fear and excitement. She fell asleep against my shoulder, whispering, "Don't let the monsters get me, Daddy." I kissed her forehead and promised, "Never." These little moments became my treasures. I didn't need gold. I had Emily. A father's promise. Every night after tucking her into bed, I stood by her side and whispered the same promise. No matter what happens, no matter how hard life gets, I'll always be here for you. I believed it with all my heart. I thought she did too. For years, it was just us against the world. We were partners, a team, bound by love and sacrifice. I thought nothing could break that bond. But as I would later learn, life has a way of testing promises, and sometimes even the strongest love can be shaken by forces we never expect. A quiet life. For years, Emily and I lived simply. Our home was small, our meals modest, but our bond was unshakable, or so I thought. By the time she turned 21, Emily was blossoming into a bright, ambitious young woman. She had dreams of starting her own business one day, something creative, something that would make her proud. I encouraged her, even if I didn't know how we'd ever afford it. I told her often, "Sweetheart, money doesn't define success. Heart does, and you've got more heart than anyone I know." She'd smile, hug me, and whisper, "Thanks, Daddy." At night, I prayed silently that somehow life would give her a chance I never had. Little did I know, life was about to do exactly that, only not in the way I imagined. The letter that changed everything. It started on an ordinary morning. The mail was stuffed with the usual bills, advertisements, junk. But one envelope stood out. Heavy, cream-colored paper with an official-looking seal. I opened it absent-mindedly, sipping my coffee. The words hit me like thunder. "We regret to inform you that your great-uncle Charles Whitmore has passed away. You and your daughter Emily have been named beneficiaries in his estate." I blinked. My great-uncle? A name I'd barely heard growing up. He was the estranged brother of my grandfather, a man who had cut ties with the family decades ago. I had never met him. The letter went on. "The estate includes financial assets and properties valued at approximately $47 million to be inherited solely by your daughter Emily Whitmore, effective immediately upon verification of identity." My hands shook. 47 million. It sounded like monopoly money, not reality. Emily came bounding into the kitchen, her hair messy from sleep. "Morning, Daddy. What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I handed her the letter. She read it once, twice, then her jaw dropped. "Daddy, is this real? Are we rich?" I forced a smile. "Looks like it, sweetheart." She screamed with joy, jumping up and down. She wrapped her arms around me, laughing. "Can you believe it? We're free. We don't have to worry anymore." For a moment, I let myself believe it too. Maybe this was the miracle I had prayed for. First glimpses of wealth. The lawyers confirmed everything. Emily was now the sole heir to a fortune beyond imagination. The inheritance skipped me completely. It was structured that way, for reasons I'll never understand. The money was hers, and hers alone. At first, Emily seemed unchanged. She insisted we celebrate with pancakes, just like old times. We laughed about all the silly things we could buy: diamond-encrusted spatulas, golden toilets, a pet giraffe. But beneath the laughter, I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen before. Hunger. Not for food, for more. Within weeks, the changes began. She bought a new wardrobe, trading her simple jeans and sweaters for designer dresses and shoes that cost more than our monthly rent used to. She traded her old second-hand phone for the latest luxury model. Then came the cars. A sleek black sports car appeared in our driveway, gleaming under the sun. She tossed me the keys casually. "Want to take it for a spin, Daddy?" I declined. I was happy with my old truck, but I noticed how differently people looked at her now, how strangers' eyes followed her as she walked into restaurants, how her old friends started calling again, friends who had ignored her when we were broke. The pull of a new world with money came invitations. Parties, galas, exclusive gatherings. Emily began to vanish into that world, returning home late at night, smelling of champagne and expensive perfume. One evening, I waited up for her, pacing in the living room. When she walked in, dazzling in a glittering gown, I asked softly, "Emily, are you okay? You've been out so much lately. I hardly see you anymore." She rolled her eyes. "Daddy, I'm fine. I'm just living. Don't you want me to enjoy life?" "Of course I do. I just don't want you to forget where you came from." Her expression hardened. "Where I came from? You mean being broke? Living in that tiny house? Wearing patched clothes? I don't want to remember that, Daddy. I'm done with all that." Her words pierced me deeper than any knife. Done with all that. Done with me. Cracks in the foundation. The more money she spent, the more distant she became. She hired financial advisors, stylists, and personal assistants. She spoke a new language: stock portfolios, trust funds, luxury brands. Our conversations grew shorter, colder. I tried to remind her of our traditions. Pancake Fridays, beach trips, candlelit ghost stories. She brushed them off. "That's kid stuff, Daddy. I'm not a kid anymore." One night she came home in tears. A so-called friend had betrayed her, using her for money. I held her as she cried, whispering the same promise I had since she was little. "I'm here, sweetheart. Always." She clung to me, just for a moment. And then, like the tide, she pulled away again. The warning signs. I started noticing people around her: shady business partners, party friends with greedy smiles, suitors who seemed more interested in her bank account than her heart. I tried to warn her. "Emily, please be careful. Not everyone has good intentions." She snapped. "Daddy, stop treating me like a child. I can handle myself. You just don't understand this world." Maybe she was right. I didn't understand that world. But I understood her. Or at least, I thought I did. Seeds of conflict. The first real fight came over the house. Our old home, the one filled with memories, laughter, sacrifices. One afternoon, Emily announced, "Daddy, I bought a new place, a mansion. It's huge. It has a pool, a theater, everything. I'm moving tomorrow." I stared at her. "Tomorrow? But what about this house? Our home?" She shrugged. "Sell it, burn it, I don't care. This place is depressing." I felt my chest tighten. "Emily, this house is our story. Every wall, every corner, don't you remember?" She sighed impatiently. Daddy, it's just a house. Stop being sentimental. Just a house. To her, maybe. To me, it was proof of survival, of love, of every sacrifice I'd ever made. The foreshadowing. As she packed her things, I watched in silence. She was leaving not just the house, but the life we had built together. I whispered to myself, "Please, Emily, don't lose yourself." But deep down, I knew the truth. Money was pulling her into a world where love and sacrifice were cheap, and appearances cost everything. And the cruelest part, there was nothing I could do to stop it. The mansion. When Emily moved into her mansion, it was as if she had stepped into another universe. The house was enormous. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, rooms so large they echoed when you spoke. Outside, there was a pool that shimmered under the sun, a garden manicured by a team of landscapers, even a garage filled with gleaming luxury cars. The first time I visited, I felt like an intruder. Emily greeted me with a smile, but it wasn't the same smile that once lit up pancake breakfasts or beach trips. It was polished, rehearsed, like something she had learned at one of her glamorous parties. "What do you think, Daddy?" she asked, twirling in her designer dress, her heels clicking against marble. I forced a smile. "It's beautiful, sweetheart, really." But inside, I wondered if I had lost her to this new world. New friends, new rules. Emily's house was never quiet. There were always people, friends, advisors, strangers in sharp suits and expensive watches. They laughed loudly, drank champagne at noon, and spoke in words that sounded foreign to me. Dividends, trusts, liquid assets. I tried to join conversations once, but they dismissed me with polite smiles, as if I were some relic from a poorer world. And maybe I was. One evening, I pulled Emily aside. "Sweetheart, who are all these people? Do you even know them?" She sighed, exasperated. "Daddy, they're my friends. They understand me. They live the same life I do now. You wouldn't get it." "I don't have to get it," I said softly. "I just want to make sure they care about you for you, not your money." Her expression hardened. "Not everything is about money. Stop being so paranoid." But deep down, I knew it was all about money. To them, to her, even to this house. A different daughter. The little things hurt the most. Emily stopped calling me Daddy in front of her friends. She called me Dad instead, as if the old name embarrassed her. She rolled her eyes at my simple clothes, urging me to wear the expensive suits she bought me. "You look out of place here, Dad. Can't you just try?" I tried. I wore the suits, forced myself into her glittering world. But every time I looked in the mirror, I didn't see me anymore. And I missed her, the real her. The girl who once painted my face with ice cream on summer nights. The girl who whispered secrets under the covers during thunderstorms. That girl was slipping away. The first betrayal. The breaking point came one afternoon when Emily's friends gathered in her lavish living room. They were drinking, laughing, tossing around business ideas. Emily introduced me casually. "This is my father." One of the men, a slick-talking type with perfect hair, smirked. "Oh, so you're the reason Emily's so cautious with money. The old-school type, huh?" The group laughed. Emily laughed, too. I froze, my own daughter laughing at me with strangers. Later, when the guests had gone, I confronted her. "Emily, why would you let them talk to me like that? I'm your father." She crossed her arms. Dad, it was just a joke. Don't be so sensitive." "Sensitive? They disrespected me. And you let them." Her eyes flashed. Well, maybe if you weren't so stuck in the past, they'd respect you more. The silence that followed was heavier than any words. For the first time, I felt not just distance, but rejection. Memories versus money. I tried one last time to remind her of who she was. I brought her to the old neighborhood, to the park where she learned to ride her bike, to the diner where we shared countless cheap but joyful meals. I pointed to the worn swing set. Remember how you used to fly so high you swore you could touch the clouds? Emily looked uncomfortable. She tugged at her designer jacket, glancing around nervously. Daddy, can we go? People are staring. So what if they are? This is where we came from. This is us. She shook her head. No, Daddy. This was us. Not anymore. Her words broke something inside me. The growing coldness weeks turned into months. Emily called less, visited less. When she did, our conversations were surface level. Money, events, business ventures. Never about feelings. Never about us. Sometimes I sat in her mansion, watching her glide through the room like a stranger. My little girl, the one I had sacrificed everything for, was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. Once, I asked quietly, Emily, do you still need me? She hesitated. Then, almost too softly to hear, she whispered, I don't know. The birthday that changed everything. Her 22nd birthday was a spectacle. The mansion overflowed with people, music, lights. Cameras flashed as Emily posed in her glittering gown, champagne in hand. I stood at the edge of the crowd, feeling invisible. No one knew me. No one cared. When it came time for speeches, I stepped forward. I spoke from the heart. Emily, no matter how big your house, no matter how much money you have, remember this. You'll always be my little girl, and I'll always be here, waiting, if you ever need me. The room went silent. For a moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Pain, maybe even love. But then she forced a smile, brushed it off, and moved on with the party. That night, as fireworks exploded above, I realized something. The distance between us wasn't just growing. It was becoming permanent. Cracks in the foundation. After Emily's birthday, I noticed something shift. She called even less, invited me over rarely, and when she did, it felt more like an obligation than a desire. She was busy, always busy, meetings, dinners, galas. When I reminded her of simple family dinners we used to have, she brushed me off. Daddy, I don't have time for that anymore. Her words stung. Didn't have time? For me? The man who gave up everything for her future? But I swallowed the pain. Parents do that, don't they? We hold the hurt in silence, believing love will bring them back. The friends take over. It wasn't long before Emily's friends began to make decisions for her. I noticed it first when I offered to help her fix her car. Sweetheart, you don't need to pay a mechanic for that. I can handle it. One of her friends interrupted, laughing. Your dad still does manual labor? Emily, just hire someone. Don't waste your time. And Emily, she listened to them. The more I tried to guide her, the more she resisted. To her, I wasn't wise anymore. I was outdated, a relic from a life she wanted to bury. The argument. The breaking point came one rainy evening. I had been staying at Emily's mansion for a few weeks at her invitation. She said she wanted me close. But it felt more like I was a shadow haunting her new life. That night, she came home late, reeking of alcohol, her makeup smudged. I was waiting in the living room. "Emily," I said softly, "this isn't you. You're drinking too much. These people you're with, they don't care about you." She dropped her purse on the table, glaring at me. "Stop acting like you know what's best for me. I'm not a little girl anymore. You'll always be my little girl," I whispered. Her voice rose. "That's the problem. You can't let me grow up. You can't let me live my life without judging me." I stood, heart pounding. "I'm not judging you, Emily. I'm trying to protect you. Because if you lose everything, your friends, your money, who will still be here? Me, always me." For a moment, silence filled the room. Her eyes glistened with tears, and I thought maybe, just maybe, I had reached her. But then she hardened. "No, Daddy, you're the problem. You suffocate me. You don't fit in my life anymore." Those words, they cut deeper than any blade. Kicked out the next morning, she didn't speak to me. She avoided my eyes at breakfast. By afternoon, she finally said it. "Daddy, maybe it's best if you don't stay here anymore. I need space. I need to figure things out without you hovering." I froze. "Emily, are you saying you want me to leave?" She wouldn't meet my gaze. "Yes." The suitcase she handed me was already packed. My clothes, folded neatly, as if I were nothing more than a guest overstaying his welcome. As I walked out the door, rain still pouring outside, I looked back at her one last time. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes cold. No hug, no "I love you," just silence. I whispered, almost to myself, "I love you, Emily, always." But she didn't answer. The lonely apartment. I rented a small apartment across town. It was nothing like the mansion: peeling wallpaper, leaky pipes, a bed that creaked with every movement. But it was home, at least for now. I sat by the window most nights, staring at the city lights, wondering if Emily ever thought about me. I replayed every moment in my head. Did I push too hard? Did I cling too tightly? Or had money already poisoned her heart beyond saving? The public humiliation. Weeks later, I ran into Emily by accident. She was at a cafe with her glamorous friends, laughing, sipping wine in the middle of the day. When she saw me, she froze. One of her friends smirked. "Is that your dad, Emily?" She hesitated before nodding. "Yeah, that's him." The friend laughed. "Wow, you really upgraded, huh?" And Emily, she laughed too. I felt the ground collapse beneath me. My own daughter, embarrassed by me. The man who once carried her on his shoulders, who stayed up nights when she had fevers, who worked his hands raw to give her everything. I left without a word. A father's anguish. That night, I cried for the first time in years. Not because I was weak, but because I realized something heartbreaking. My daughter had chosen her wealth, her friends, her image, over me. I lay in that tiny apartment, staring at the ceiling, wondering if love really was enough. If sacrifice really meant anything. Maybe money didn't just build walls. Maybe it buried love completely. The lavish life cracks. Emily's life was a whirlwind of parties, designer clothes, exotic vacations, and the endless applause of so-called friends. On the surface, she sparkled like a star. But behind the glitter, cracks were spreading. The investments she made, reckless, risky, pushed by people who whispered promises of doubling her fortune, began to fail. First, a luxury boutique chain she sponsored collapsed. Then, a high-profile restaurant venture drained millions. Her wealth, once untouchable, started to shrink. The friends disappear. At first, she didn't notice. The wine still flowed, the music still played. But slowly, the invitations dried up. Calls went unanswered. Texts were left on read. The very people who once clung to her side vanished the moment her money faltered. One evening, she showed up at her favorite club only to be told her membership had been suspended. Unpaid dues. She stood outside in her glittering dress, rain pouring down, her so-called friends slipping inside without a second glance. For the first time, Emily felt the sting of being on the outside looking in. The bills pile up. Within months, the mansion felt more like a prison. Bills stacked on her marble counters. Notices of overdue payments filled her mailbox. She tried selling jewelry, cars, even art pieces. But no matter what she sold, the debts outpaced her. Creditors called day and night. The empire she believed would last forever crumbled in her hands. The breaking of pride. One afternoon, she sat alone in her empty living room. The chandeliers still glittered above her, but there was no warmth, no laughter, no life. The silence was deafening. Her reflection in the mirror startled her. Hollow cheeks, tired eyes, the once vibrant glow replaced by exhaustion and despair. It hit her all at once. She wasn't rich anymore. She wasn't admired. She wasn't surrounded by friends. She was just alone. Memories return. In that silence, she remembered me. The way I used to sit by her bedside when she was sick. The way I worked double shifts so she could go to college. The way I warned her, not out of control, but out of love. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she whispered, "Daddy, I'm sorry." For the first time in years, she longed not for money, not for status, but for the one thing she had thrown away: family. The call no father expected. It was late at night when my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it, an unknown number. But something made me answer. "Dad?" Her voice was cracked, trembling, drenched in shame. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Emily hadn't called me Dad in years. "Emily," I whispered, "is that really you?" She sobbed. I don't know where else to go." The journey. Back the next morning, I stood at the window watching as a taxi pulled up in front of my modest home. The door opened. There she was, my daughter. But not the glowing young woman who once walked past me with arrogance. No, this Emily was fragile, her clothes plain, her eyes swollen from sleepless nights and tears. For a moment, she just stood there, frozen. Then she dropped her suitcase, fell to her knees on my doorstep, and whispered the words I thought I'd never hear. "Dad, please forgive me." The father's heart. My chest ached. For years I had dreamed of this moment, but not like this. I wanted her back, yes, but not broken, not shattered. I knelt beside her, lifting her trembling hands into mine. "Emily," I said softly, "you don't need to beg me. You're my daughter. You will always be my daughter." Her tears fell harder, her voice shaking. "I was so wrong. I let money blind me. I pushed you away. I thought I didn't need you. But when everything collapsed, you were the only person I could think of. I don't deserve your love, but I'm begging for it." Inside the home, I brought her inside. The warmth of my small home contrasted with the cold emptiness she had left behind in her mansion. She looked around, her eyes landing on the old family photos on the wall. Pictures of her childhood birthdays, her graduation, even silly snapshots of us laughing over ice cream. She touched one frame gently, as if it might disappear. "Dad," she whispered. I threw away the only thing that mattered. I placed a hand on her shoulder. "Emily, the world can take your money, your friends, even your health, but it can never take my love for you. That's yours forever." The breaking point of pride. She buried her face in her hands. "I don't know how to start over." "You start," I said, "by remembering who you are. Not as the girl with millions, not as the socialite everyone envied, but as my daughter, Emily, the same girl who once held my hand crossing the street, who used to fall asleep on my shoulder during long car rides. She's still in there." Her lips quivered. "I thought being rich made me strong, but without you, I was weaker than ever." Narrator, voiceover. In that living room, the walls of pride finally crumbled. The daughter who once cast me aside now sat broken, asking for nothing but love. And the father, who had every reason to turn away, instead opened his arms. Because that's what love does. It forgives, it waits, it heals. Healing begins. We sat for hours, talking, crying, remembering. The bitterness melted, replaced by something fragile but real. Hope. Emily promised to rebuild her life, this time with different values. She asked if she could stay with me, not in a mansion, not with riches, but in the comfort of home. I smiled. "Of course, this house was always yours." For the first time in years, I felt whole. And Emily, resting her head on my shoulder, whispered, "Thank you, Dad, for still being here." The quiet after the storm. In the weeks that followed Emily's return, our home changed. It wasn't perfect overnight. She still carried wounds, guilt, regret, shame, but she also carried something far stronger. Humility. Gone were the designer dresses, the diamond necklaces, the entourage of false friends. She wore simple clothes, cooked dinner with me, and sometimes we just sat on the porch watching the sunset in silence. One evening, she said softly, "Dad, I thought money was everything. But now, just sitting here with you, I realize this is what I've been missing all along." I smiled. "Emily, money can build houses, but it can't build a home. It can buy company, but not true companionship. What you're feeling now, that's family, and it's priceless." The true value of family isn't about grand gestures. It's not about inheritance or wealth or success. It's about presence, being there in the darkest times when the rest of the world turns away. When Emily was at her lowest, abandoned by those who once praised her, she realized something profound. The people who truly love you don't need your riches. They don't measure your worth in dollars, but in moments, in memories, in love. As I looked at her across the dinner table, I knew this was a second chance. Not just for her, but for us. Emily's words. One afternoon, Emily asked if she could record a short video diary, something just for herself. She set up my old phone, sat in front of it, and said, "To anyone chasing wealth, thinking it will fill the emptiness in your heart, please listen. I lost everything, but what hurt most wasn't losing money. It was realizing I had pushed away the one person who loved me unconditionally. Don't make the same mistake I did. Treasure your family while you have them. They are your real fortune." I listened from the other room, my heart swelling with both pain and pride. She was finally speaking the truth, not just to herself, but to the world. A father's reflection. I often think back to that night she returned, broken and begging. A part of me wonders, what if I had shut the door? What if I had let pride answer instead of love? But then I remember, fatherhood isn't about keeping score. It's about keeping faith. Yes, she hurt me. Yes, she abandoned me. But she came back. And that's all that mattered. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It builds a bridge to the future.